everyone, it's Jai452 back again inside the land of cosplay in the year 2018. Rummaging around and seeing what we can find on Inside Cosplay. Joining me this week is my very special guest, Knightwing Cosplays. Hi Knightwing, how are you today?
Doing rather well.
Awesome. So we're just going to jump right into the thick of things, and I'm going to ask you, when did you first start cosplaying?
Ooh, when? That would be maybe around 2014. Although I wasn't really cosplaying as seriously as I was now. It was it was basically a closet Castiel cosplay because I happened to have an overcoat in my closet.
Awesome. Who or what inspired you to cosplay?
It was more of a what, because the first time I went to a convention back in 2012 or 2013, I went in plain clothes, and I just saw so many other people having so much fun in costume that I figured, hey, you know, I'm going to go again sometime, so why not try this out? And I did, and I haven't stopped.
Awesome. Has there been any particular people that you follow on social media that inspire you when it comes to cosplay?
Ooh.
And also, can you name drop one of them?
Oh, please, I can name drop you a couple. Let's see. We got Sean Weber, who's on Instagram as Dynamite Weber.
Yep, he's amazing. I follow him too.
We also got Michael Huffman, who's One Punch Mickey on Instagram. His gambit is top notch, I gotta say. Of course, you got Leon Chiro. I recently met him actually at a convention in Orlando. I did, yeah.
Wow.
And he's just the sweetest guy. It was amazing.
You need to answer one question for me on Leon Chiro. Any live stream I've seen him doing, he's either speaking Spanish or French. And I'm not 100% sure. Does he speak English as well? Because I know he speaks multiple languages. He does?
He does. Awesome. He speaks a few languages, actually. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I've always found it really interesting catching him speaking French, and then the next time I see him speaking Spanish, and I'm like, wasn't he just speaking French the last time I seen him? So you've met Leon Chiro, which is a great accomplishment, you know, and must have been like, I know if I had to meet him, I'd be extremely intimidated, because he has such a presence, you know, on social media for that.
Yeah, there was a brief moment of intimidation because, okay, when I went to go meet him, there was, of course, a line to get to his booth, and it was full of people. So I'm standing there in line, like, kind of intimidated, because there's this guy that I've looked up to for almost a year, and he's, what, a few yards away? And then I see... And then I see him get into a burping contest with Alice and Tabitha, and I'm just like, oh my god, he's one of us.
I remember the same issue I had when I was, it was actually recently, I was in line to go and meet Troy Baker.
No!
And next, like, the setup that they had was, you had Troy Baker, the original Blue Ranger, the original Black Ranger, and the original, I think it was the Yellow Ranger. Well, not the original one, but like the second one.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really concentrating on Troy Baker because it was like a lot of people there. I was more looking at the original Blue Ranger, and he's sitting there like, you know, because there was nobody there, and he's just sitting there like this. And I so wanted to like lean over to him and say, "You're such an inspiration," because for various reasons, he's an inspiration to me, and I kind of wanted to lean over and say that to him. But as soon as I got close to him, I was dressed like my version of the Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. And I got closer to him, and he just kind of like seen me and like looked to his side away from me, and I'm like, oh, okay. Won't bother. But yeah, meeting Leo and Charles. So what was it like when you actually met him?
Wow. Well, here's the thing. You got to understand that maybe one of the biggest inspirations that I get from Leon is how detail oriented he is in his cosplays, especially with his Assassin's Creed ones. So that day that I met him, I was cosplaying as Jacob Fry from Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Mm-hmm. And I went ham on this costume. It was like a wool and leather blend overcoat with like the vest was the same embroidery pattern as the character from the game. I got some actual leather belts made to be like in the game with the buckle that worked and everything, and it was quite nice. It was quite nice. And I get up to him, and he's been really lively this whole time, and he gets kind of serious, and he sees me coming. He's like, wow. And he just kind of leans in, and he starts like
analyzing
and stuff on my suit. And like, I'm standing there like, oh my God, what's going on? You know? And then he reaches here because I'm wearing the little coin pendant, you know? And he's like, oh, you've even got the necklace. I'm like, yep. It's like, wow, this is really good. And I'm just sitting there kind of not saying anything because I know that if I say something, I'm just gonna, word vomit and all that, you know? But eventually I did manage to get out that he really inspired me to get a lot more detail oriented with my cosplay.
Awesome.
And he really appreciated that. And I was so happy to meet him. It was surreal.
Awesome. And if Leon, if you're watching this, please do get in contact with me. I'd love to interview you on a cosplay level as well. So you've mentioned a few people there that you've possibly, well, one that you've definitely met and a few others that inspired you. I happen to know that you work with a little group called Cause a Commotion Cosplay.
Yes, I have.
Dean and Shalina. And I also happen to know that through them you've managed to meet a few celebrities as well. Now, I have to ask, because Dean and Shalina did tell us the story about when Robin Lloyd Taylor met Shalina.
Yes.
And he mistook her for Jada. Did you, when you first met them, obviously when you first met them, were they in cosplay? And by chance, did you mistake Shalina for Jada, I should say?
Okay, so here's the story behind that, actually.
Okay.
I met Dean and Shalane in July. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually got face-to-face with them. I started talking to them then. But I had seen them before in May at MegaCon in Orlando. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just there for one day, so I was just walking around, taking in the sights. You know, I was in kind of a rinky-dink version of one of my later cosplays, which would be Hellstorm from Marvel Comics. Mm-hmm. But I remember walking by the cosplay booths in MegaCon and seeing this one that was like a prison cell. And I got kind of curious, and I kind of looked at it for a little bit. And there were these two cosplayers, this Fish Mooney that was amazing.
I know.
And, you know, Oswald Cobblepot was like, wait a second, is that? No, it can't be. She wouldn't be at a booth like this. You know, like, it did briefly occur to me that it might have been Jada Pinkett Smith, but then I was like, at this booth? think so. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then when I actually met them in July, they were Star-Lord and Gamora
Mm-hmm.
for their Guardian set. And they were at SuperCon in Fort Lauderdale, And I was just running the gauntlet in Cosplay Alley, just saying hi to a few of my friends there. And I happened to pass by their booth, and I complimented Shalane on her makeup. It was an amazing job.
Uh-huh.
I gotta say, like, she does really well.
She does.
She does
She does
amazing
extremely well. I mean,
Oh, yes.
I remember before I contacted them a while back, somebody had sent me a picture of the two of them as Penguin and Fish Mooney. And when I was looking at Dean's, I could, like, no offense to Dean, but I could slightly tell that that was a cosplayer. But when I looked to Shalana, I was like, is that really, like, is that Jada there? But, like, the gears started turning in my head. I was like, why would, like, Jada be there in costume? You know, because when celebrities go, they don't tend to go in costume. So the gears were kind of slightly turning, and I was like, is this a promo photo or something? Because it was a really amazing photograph, So I was kind of like going, could that Oswald Cobblepot have been like somebody that they got before they got Robin Lloyd Taylor? So I was like, but it is like so different when you see them. They really go all out for it, which has to be commended. So you mentioned that you'd seen the sets that they do, which is something else that they commented on in their interview. I unfortunately haven't seen any of their sets because I haven't had the chance to look at any photographs for it at this point in time. But you've had the opportunity to be on their set, so what is that like? Yeah. Like, is the sets as far as their cosplays, or?
Well, honestly, the set is pretty interesting because depending on the booth that we're assigned, it can be pretty small or pretty big. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a decent space to hold at least 5 or 6 people comfortably for a photo. Mm-hmm. And actually, in one of the photos that we took back in November, we fit like 10 or 12 people in that set, and we took a pretty dang good photo. So that it kind of it's actually a pretty funny story behind that, but now's not really the time for that one.
No, go on.
Well, it's because it was this group of cosplayers who wanted to take a photo. They kind of pooled their money, and they all just crammed into the booth. So it was all of us, like in like 1, 2, maybe 3 rows. It was kind of funny, and they had a Catwoman up on the little catwalk on the side, and because like the thing about the Gotham set, which I got to see personally for more time than I got to see their Guardian set, mm-hmm. is that you got a few props when it comes to the Gotham set. You've got like the clock tower, and you've got the fire escape or the little catwalk that you got, mm-hmm. and you got a few garbage cans and little traffic cone, whatever. You're trying to make it look like a Gotham City back alley.
Yeah.
So despite having those rather large props, we still managed to fit quite a few people into that photo. I'm going to have to go back and see exactly how many it was, but it was definitely more than I thought we would have been able to get in the space that we had.
Awesome. So let's go back to talking about your cosplay process, and I'm going to ask you, to date, what has been the most challenging cosplay that you've ever done, both from the making of a costume and the acting side? Because there's a tiny bit of acting involved in cosplay, whether that be how the character moves, how the character speaks, how they might interact with other people, or just generally how they might do something, like they might flick a sword out or something. So let's talk about the creation of the costume first. So to date, who's been the most challenging for you, or what has been the most challenging for you?
The most challenging for me? Honestly, I think so far, the most challenging for me has been one that I might actually show you right now.
Awesome.
This guy, the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Like, this here is still the duct tape pattern that I did on my arm. I had to have help for this one. And actually, this is the second pattern that I had drawn because I wasn't quite satisfied with the first one. And basically, the process behind this one is a lot more complicated than any of the others that I've ever worked on. Basically, if anyone's ever worked with foam, then you know that you just gotta take your pattern, cut it out, transfer it to foam, draw it out, then cut it out of the foam, glue, seal, paint, and you're done. You know, unless you got a little heat forming here and there, but that's a whole other story. But what I'm intending to do with this Winter Soldier is basically, once I cut out the patterns and transfer them to really thin foam, I'm going to wrap the foam pieces up in this cloth that's like a spandex or a lycra, and it's metallic on one side. So I'm going to wrap those in that metallic spandex or lycra, and then I'm going to glue each individual band of armor onto a sleeve that I've prepared, so that instead of having like a Winter Soldier arm that's like one piece and then two pieces, it's going to be more organic, like the whole arm, even the hand.
It's funny that you should mention metallic spandex material, because I was actually pricing that last night for a possible summer upcoming cosplay that I have in mind, which coincidentally I was speaking to somebody else about today. They were mentioning they have LED lights, and I was like, oh, can you save me some of them, because I might need them for this cosplay. So who knows, we might see that in the future. I still have a lot to work out on that one. I think it's going to be a very bank-breaking cosplay, because I know you were mentioning to me before we got into this interview about having to speak to the bank. I think my bank would look at me and just go, why are you buying all of this stuff? But it also would advance my skill set, because I'd need very particular skill sets for this cosplay. I'm not going to tell you guys on camera what it is just yet. Just yet.
Just yet.
Secrets. So let me ask you the same question, but from this standpoint, we're going to look at the acting side. So to date, who's been the most challenging character that you've cosplayed as well, standing from the acting side of things?
I think from an acting perspective, I mean, I've never really had a cosplay that really challenged me in the acting way, because a lot of the characters that I love and that I want to cosplay are usually kind of similar to me in some aspect, in a way that it makes it easy for them to come out of me. Like, for example, when I was cosplaying Castiel, he's very quiet, kind of reserved, very terse when he talks. And when it comes to like accents and different voices, that sort of comes easy to me. So I don't have really an issue switching from, say, from the voice of Castiel to a British accent for when I cosplay Lucifer. And
would that be Tom Ellis's Lucifer by chance?
Yes, actually. I haven't debuted that one just yet, but it is in the works.
Awesome.
So
Is there any particular one that you do find that you've done or you've maybe looked at and said that might be a challenge for me because it's so far removed from who you are?
well, it's not one that I've done or that I'm really actively working on, but I do have plans eventually to do Genji from Overwatch, you know?
Yeah.
And that one is definitely going to be a bit more of a challenge to act in because as opposed to how I am personally, Genji is a lot more calm, I want to say. He's a lot more zen, like centered, very reserved. Um, Me, when I'm at a con, the energy just completely changes me. Um, like, I'll get really lively at a convention, and I'll get really kind of bombastic in the things that I do, the things that I say. But kind of keeping quiet and kind of really in that Zen mindset that Genji always seems to be in will probably be a challenge once I actually am in cosplay at a convention as him.
I've
Yeah.
had two characters that I've done that were very challenging for me, particularly because they're they are quite different to what I would normally class as my own social interaction for people. I did a gender bent poison ivy, and you'll know that character is very well, the adult version of that character is very flirtatious, and I was
Yeah.
trying to apply that to like the male gender and think, right, how can I be overly flirtatious with everyone but still remain this kind of demeanor of nice, you know? And I found that very difficult, and I ended up kind of slightly playing it cartoony like. So anything I said, it would sound very seductive, or to that extent. Another character I found kind of difficult to play because he's so quiet half the time is L from Death Note.
L.
An interesting and fun character to play, and I really loved playing that character because it's such an easy cosplay. You know, it's
That's true.
bargain based cheap, really. But at the same time, I was kind of like pondering how do I play this character because he is very quiet and you know he talks very slowly. So again, that was something I had to take into consideration, and I just thought Elle's probably a character I'll bust out when I don't have a lot of money on me to buy and make new cosplays. And I think a lot of cosplayers would be like, yeah, and Elle's an easy go-to character when you don't have money.
Yeah.
But I would definitely need to really think about the acting side and probably watch more of Death Note and read more of it, just to get a kind of personality down for him. I was so tempted to run about in my bare feet at the con, but because it was in like 2 rooms, I was like, I'm not going to chance stepping on something.
Yeah. I've actually been pondering that myself recently because I've got a Jack Frost cosplay, like Rise of the Guardians, Jack Frost, and I haven't worn him out yet for the specific reason that I don't know what to do about the whole bare feet thing.
I can
So,
give you a little piece of advice on that one. Because when I did my Poison Ivy one, it was kind of bare feet, but not fully bare feet. What I did was I took along a pair of sandals to the con and just wore the sandals, but they were like slip-in sandals. And I still
okay.
own them somewhere today, and I should have actually used them for my L cosplay, but because we were getting into the winter month, I was like, no, I need something that will go around my actual foot and
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
warm. So yeah, I would recommend getting a pair of sandals, or those kind of slip-in soles that you can get. And oddly enough, another cosplayer was telling me about the kind of gel pack that you get that sticks to your feet, but it acts like a shoe. So there's some tips there. Who knows?
I'm gonna have to look into that. Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, so in your opinion, what is the most difficult thing or character to cosplay as, both from the making of the costume and the acting side, both in regards to yourself and something that you might say to other people, well, you can do this, but be absolutely sure that that's what you want to do. So let's start with yourself. Like, what is something that you think is something that would be rather difficult to do? Not impossible, but difficult,
Not impossible, but difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it takes a lot of guts to do this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I've seen people do it, and I've always been completely in awe of it whenever they do. It's those people that go to conventions dressed in those huge, giant suits of armor, like those big video game characters, the big bulky ones, like Warframe. No, not Warframe. Warhammer or Reinhardt from Overwatch. Like, those people impress the living hell out of me, because it takes guts to get in this giant suit of armor, probably not even be able to get into a convention, and like walk around probably on stilts with arms being controlled by like controls. You don't even have any gripping power or anything, and it's just you in what is basically a Hulkbuster armor. That's another one, the Hulkbuster armor. Like, I know I would probably not do something like that because I don't quite feel comfortable not having the dexterity of being able to hold things while I'm in cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
But if I ever did something like that, I would certainly imagine that it's not an easy build or easy to maintain. Like, I've always seen several handlers for people who have cosplays like that,
The convention when I was cosplaying as Elle that I was at, there was a man there who did a mech suit Iron Man, and it is actually metallic because he had various LED lights all over him. And I remember I was standing next to him before we went up on stage, and I said to him, "Your LED light is like just sticking out from your armor. Do you mind if I just push it back in for you?" And he's like, no, go ahead. Please do, So I'm pushing it back in for him, and I realised that it's plated, and it was actually real metal. And
wow.
He was going up the stairs, and I literally said to him, look, if you fall, don't expect me to break your fall. You will fall, and we will both go to the ground, and you'll no doubt crush me. And he's like, yeah, he's like laughing, like, yeah. And I'm like, you think I'm joking? I don't want to die here today. Coincidentally, as I'm carrying a death note up the stairs, like, I don't want to die here today. Well, so.
Oh my gosh.
I have mad respect for people who do like Iron Man outfits and such like, because not only do they have to wear that, and it can be, as we've said, it's very difficult to move in it, but it's also extremely hot inside them, because the first con I ever went to, there was an Iron Man who was in an actual Iron Man suit. He popped the lid to his like face mask, and all you could see was the sweat like pouring off of this guy. And I remember this specifically because I had two girls behind me who were dressed up like Disney princesses, and they were complaining that their feet were getting sore because they're in high heels. And I remember a woman who's dressed up like Lady Death in front of me, and she's got like 7-inch heels on and this big massive sword. And I'm just sitting there going, please don't kill me. They're the ones that are saying that their heels are sore.
Oh my god.
And then Iron Man walks by, pops the hood, all the sweat, and we're like, right, who else wants to complain? You know? Anyone else got an issue?
I find that usually that's the case when you got like full armor builds, like stormtroopers or Kylo Ren or pretty much anything from Star Wars. And then like other characters like Iron Man or in some cases Batman, you know, because you every once in a while you'll see a really good like armored Batman, but then you just gotta wonder how hot are you inside of that? Like,
Definitely.
was it worth it, man?
It's funny you should mention the Star Wars franchise, because I'm just going to touch on this very, very quickly, and then we'll get back to the acting side.
Yes, of course.
You mentioned how some cosplayers will train themselves to walk on stilts. I happen to know a man who goes to the majority of cosplay conventions over here dressed as a Wookiee. And you might think, right, Wookiee, like, big deal, it's like just a hairy costume. Not only has he done that costume, but he does it on stilts. So he's walking around the entire...
Like the actual height.
Pardon?
So he's like the actual height, too.
Pretty much. I think he would probably be taller than an actual Wookiee. But he's walking around on these stilts for the entire day. And it is amazing seeing him in these stilts and being able to walk around in them. And I remember the first time I spoke to him, I was like, I literally had to crane myself up like this and say, "Are you okay up there?" And he's like, this down at me, and I'm like, "Okay, good, bye." We will be right back with the rest of this interview, guys, so 1 second.
Yeah, of course.
And we're back. So, yeah, like that guy has literally taught himself how to walk around on stilts. And you know yourself, when you're at a Comic-Con, you're there for a good 6 to 7 hours. You know, and walking around that length of time on stilts must be an absolute nightmare. You know, I mean, we complain when we're walking in heels that are like 7 inches or whatever, you know, you think, oh dear God, my ankles. This poor guy's walking around for 7 hours on stilts. Shut the F up. But getting back to the question side, so in regards to yourself, what character or thing would you consider to be the most difficult to do from an acting standpoint of view? What is something that you might kind of shy away from for a little bit?
Well, I wouldn't shy away from it permanently, but say if there's a character with a voice or an accent that I haven't quite gotten, okay, let me see. Okay. So, specifically Gambit, actually. I was a bit shy on cosplaying Gambit for a good, I'd say 3 or 4 months after I finished the cosplay, because I wasn't quite satisfied with the way my voice sounded doing a Cajun accent. You know? Mm-hmm. And I really, really wanted to get it right, and I was just not getting this voice. And then I went and I just kept looking up on YouTube, like Cajun accent, you know, just how-tos and all that. And I found this show. I think it was True Blood or The Vampire Diaries or one of those vampire TV shows where in one of the seasons there was this villain who had this really thick Cajun accent. He was played by the guy who played Neil in Once Upon a Time.
Hmm.
Which, by the way, his Cajun accent was. Ooh.
I think I know who you're on about, and I'm pretty sure that was in True Blood season 1 and 2. That character. Because there's a Cajun guy that is friends with all of the the main cast, with the exception of the vampires and such like, because I don't think he has any interaction with them. And it gets set up relatively well in season 1, and then I think it's either near to the end of season 1 or the beginning of season 2 we find out he's a killer.
Yeah, that's the one. That's
Yeah.
the one right there. Yeah. But like I started watching videos of him and I just started imitating his voice, or trying to at least.
Hmm.
And my Cajun accent definitely improved enough to the point where I felt comfortable cosplaying Gambit, but it's still not quite there in my own opinion, you know.
Okay.
So I'm always working on that.
It's always good to be working on something constantly, because you're constantly improving it and improving it and improving it. Is that something that you would recommend to others if they're having issues with a particular aspect of the acting side, is just to look at reference points on the internet?
Oh, absolutely. Um, you've probably heard the phrase, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Hmm.
Well, imitation is also the best way to learn a specific thing if you're trying to act. Um, a lot of times, when you have actors who are trying to get into a role, they'll look up different aspects about the characters that they're trying to bring to life. Like for me, I look up people with similar accents to try and get a feel for what kind of voice I'm supposed to put on.
Hmm.
Another kind of specific example that I know of is Stephen Amell, who plays Oliver Queen on Arrow. One of the strangest things that I never really noticed, but after I tell you, you'll see it and you can never unsee it, is whenever on the show Oliver's feeling like nervous or feeling pressured or like he's thinking really hard, he'll do this thing with his hand that he's kind of like this,
Hmm.
you know? He'll kind of do this, and it turns out that apparently that's something that archers do, that they tend to do when they're nervous, because this kind of mimics the action of them holding
The bow.
the end of the arrow against the bowstring. It's kind of the same grip, you know? And I thought that was really interesting that Stephen would bring that to his role. And it definitely gives it a whole new level, like, of depth, too. You know, because then it actually gives the impression that not only is he just acting like an archer, but he is one, you know?
I think it is really cool when actors do go that extra step, and especially when it's an absolutely drastic change. Like the best person that I can think of for an example of this is Angelina Jolie when she did Lara Croft. Now, I know a lot of people don't really like those movies, but get over it. They're
They were
movies.
sick, who cares?
Yeah, plus Angelina Jolie is totally awesome. She's the one person on the planet who will take you as you are, you know. And who cares if she's married to Brad Pitt? Big deal. But when she went up for that role, she didn't really know an awful lot about Lara Croft, and she really did get into the role. She started living like Lara Croft, training like Lara Croft. I mean, the woman knows how to take apart and put together a gun. And that is something that Lara obviously knows how to do. So seeing somebody just drastically change everything about who they are to get really into the role is something that I really admire and think just hats off to you kind of person, you know, well done, you're fantastic, you know? And it's slightly more interesting, like obviously when you see it on a TV show, because you can start to pick out those tiny little things that they do and you think, oh, that's really cool that they've started to bring that to the role. Okay, so in regards to other people, what would you say is a cosplay character or thing if, let's say, I came to you and said, oh, I'm looking to cosplay a man-bat type of character or a gargoyle type of character, what would be something that you would say to me on that front, like if you weren't 100% that was within my skill level?
Okay, so like a man-bat or a gargoyle type thing.
Mm-hmm. Like a creature cosplay, essentially.
Okay. Well, of course, whenever somebody comes up to me and tells me they want to do a certain cosplay, it really depends on what cosplay they tell me that they want to do. Like, you're talking about a creature cosplay, so that would involve prosthetics, makeup, some props, but it's very prosthetic and makeup heavy. So I would say make sure that you're confident enough in your skills with makeup and maybe have some help in applying that makeup so that you get an even coat wherever it should be. You know, just like before you step into it, make sure that you're 100% comfortable doing what needs to be done in order to get to that look that you're trying to achieve. Because if there's one thing that I know from experience is that a lot of times you're into cosplay for the self-satisfaction of it. And you will never really be self-satisfied with something if you know that it's kind of half-assed. You know, like if in your mind you're thinking, I ran out of makeup halfway through my arm, you know, people probably won't notice, but I'm gonna know, and it's gonna bother me the whole day. Like, yeah, like I feel like that's something you should prepare for. It happens regardless, but you're not gonna really be satisfied with that. You're gonna want to try again. You're gonna want to make it better, and that's good. You know, you just got to be confident that you can make it better.
Okay. Same question again, but in regards to the acting side of things now, let's say I come up to you and say, I want to do, what could be a cosplay that's really heavy on the acting side of things? The Joker.
Oh boy.
Let's say I come up to you and say, I want to do the Joker, and you know from, like, say, knowing me, that I'm completely okay with putting together the costume and putting together the makeup and any prosthetics that could be involved, props, whatever. But I'm not that confident on doing either his voice or his mannerisms. Let's say that it's a complete departure of who you know me to be as a person. What would you advise to somebody in that scenario?
Okay. Well, first off, a lot of alcohol. No, I'm just playing. No, because basically what you do want to do, though, is if it's a complete departure from your normal personality, I guess what you would want to do is just kind of get rid of all your normal inhibitions and just be prepared to embrace something that's completely unlike you. Like, the Joker's very, very bombastic. He's very loud. He wants to be seen. He wants to be heard. You know, thus the bright colors and the loud voice and the very strange rasp that he's got, specifically with the Mark Hamill version of his voice. Lord knows Heath Ledger's Joker is very...
raspy?
I guess not... The word that I would really use to describe that kind of voice is kind of slithery. Like, he's very slow, very deliberate with his words, you know? Because his voice is very... It's very kind of mellow, but he talks kind of slowly, very deliberately. And he also does that thing with his tongue, you know? But, however, you've got Hamill's Joker, which is very sort of high-pitched and very sort of raspy. Little bit of an English accent there, too, if you want to go there, you know?
And then there's also the Jack Nicholson Joker as well.
Oh, yeah. Now, the Jack Nicholson Joker is one that I really don't do very well, because that one is very much Jack Nicholson's own voice, and there's really no perfect imitation of that.
No. Nobody does Jack like Jack.
Precisely. But, like, when it comes to acting like the Joker, the best I can offer is really pick a version of the Joker and just consume all that you can about that version of Joker and really surround yourself with it. Like, practice the voice as often as you can with whomever you can. Like, of course, where it's appropriate. Like, you don't want to go to work and just be talking to customers at your store or wherever you work. You don't want to, you don't want to freak them out by talking to them like the Joker.
Also, probably advisable not to do it in any kind of major social situation, like going to church or at somebody's funeral, or
well, that's kind of the messed up bit, is that I would probably do it at church, but
you know, I would probably do it at church as well, you know, just to get a rise out of somebody.
Oh my god, this confession would be amazing. Just, would you like to confess to me today? Oh, so many things, Father.
Okay. So, moving on. There are two types of Comic-Cons that we can go to throughout the year. There's the big once-a-year Comic-Cons, which is, for you, the San Diego and New York Comic-Cons.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're once a year. Are they once a year?
Yes,
like twice
but same convention centers, you'll usually have like smaller conventions, but like the big names up there will be San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, Dragon Con as well in Atlanta, you know.
And then, like you said, there are the smaller local ones that happen every 2 to 3 months.
Every few months, yeah.
Yeah, every month or so. I mean, actually, I do have a friend over in the States that says, oh, I can go to a Comic-Con every weekend. And I'm like, where do you live? Do you have room in your house? Can I be a lodger? But out of those two, which do you prefer going to? Do you like the big once-a-year ones or the smaller, more local ones? Or do you like a blend of the two for different reasons?
Honestly, I do like a blend of the two, because it's great to have like a once-a-year event convention that you just show off all your best cosplays at. But at the same time, I'm never really quite satisfied just going to one convention a year. You know? So it's good to have your eye on the smaller ones that happen every once in a while. Like, then again, I don't go to a lot of those either. I'll go once every 2 months, every 3 months.
I think
actually, last year, 2017, I went to the most conventions in 1 year that I've ever been to.
And
like,
what was your grade?
Before I would only go about twice a year, but last year I went to let me see, there was SuperCon Retro, there was MegaCon, SuperCon, um, Animate Florida, and then I went to Heroes and Villains Fan Fest. And then now, in I think a week or two, I'm going to be going back up to Atlanta to attend an event that's being hosted by MetroCon.
Awesome.
So,
I totally understand where you're coming from with the liking a blend of the two, because the bigger ones, obviously, there's a lot more to, well, kind of a lot more to do. But I always feel that the bigger ones suffer from what I like to call a New York minute, where you don't necessarily get a lot of time with someone. It's pretty much a hello, how are you? Oh, love this, love that, bye. You know, whereas at a smaller con, you have the opportunity to stand and talk with someone for a little bit longer. You spoke about earlier how Leon was examining your costume. That's rare to see something like that at a big con. Whereas at a smaller con, you will see or get the chance to speak with people who can examine your costume that little bit more, and you can talk them through it and say, well, this is how I did this, or this is how I did that, and how I managed to do this aspect, you know. Like I said, it is rare to see something like that at a larger con, but it does happen, you know.
yeah.
Evident with Leon kind of picking apart pieces of your costume and saying, ooh.
Well, actually, I met Leon at Holiday Matsuri, which is actually not that big of a convention. So,
Right.
like, it goes with what you were saying. Like, it's more time to do that at like a smaller convention. Yeah.
The bigger conventions, I always feel it as a kind of case of, right, and do what you have to do, out. Which is even worse when you're going for pictures with photographers, because it's very quick.
Oh my God,
quick.
yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to work with really good photographers that I've gotten to know, so I can be like, can we have like 20 minutes more so that we can just socialize with each other? So, when it comes to doing these particular events, big and small, what is the one thing that you are most excited for, and the one thing that you either still kind of do on some level or used to find most nerve-wracking? So let's talk about what you're most excited for when it comes to these events.
What I'm most excited for? Well, to be honest, I'm usually the most excited to just go in cosplay. Like, the whole experience of cosplay for me, I'm not gonna lie, it's really exciting because it's fun to have people's attention for even the briefest period of time, you know? Like, you'll walk by in costume and somebody who knows the character or who admires the character will, like, even if they don't come up and ask for a photo, they'll look at you as you pass and they'll kind of whisper to their friend, "Oh my God, look, it's XYZ character," you know? And I will admit, like, I've heard that happen around me sometimes, and I always kind of be smiling to myself, like, yeah, that's right, you know? You know?
I remember having that reaction when I did my first Comic-Con event. That's like 3 years ago now. Wow, 3 years. And I was doing my gender bent Harley Quinn, and it was my classic outfit at the time. So it was as close as I could get to the original, like, Jester outfit that she wears. And I'm walking up the aisle, and I could just hear everybody just kind of like whispering. Because, like, I was one of, if I include myself, I was one of 5 male Harley Quinns there that day. And I literally could not take a step without somebody stopping and asking for a picture, or, hey, can we get this, can we get that? And I found it, because it was my first con, I did find it kind of strange. Even though, like, I was told, expect this. You know, I was kind of like, this is kind of strange. And I remember talking to another male Harley who was doing a somewhat new 52 version of the character. And I said to him, how many times have you been stopped for people wanting a picture or something today? And he's like, I've only been stopped 3 times. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, how many times have you been stopped? And I said, I have not been able to take 5 steps in any direction. Which was interesting to me and very strange at the same time. And it's how I know there was like 3 other Harleys, male Harleys there that day as well. Because I said to him, is there any more of us around? He's like, yeah, there's 3 other guys doing the same character. I was like, oh, okay. But it is interesting when that kind of thing does happen. What about the most nerve-wracking thing? Like, when you're doing these conventions, what is the most nerve-wracking thing for you? Or is it that more something that has kind of subsided now?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. It's not something that's completely subsided, but it's one thing that I don't worry about as much anymore because I kind of know these people now, and it's cool. We're friends. I wouldn't say a habit. Like, I usually hang around the cosplay booths at a convention because I like to talk to the cosplayers. And at the local conventions that I go to, at this point, I know a good majority of them. I know Doris from Harley's Love Shack. I know Jordan. I know Antonina and Ibelize. I know a bunch of people in Cosplay Alley where I'm at. But there are still people who visit that I haven't spoken to, or that I still find it a little difficult to speak to because, like, I'm still meeting them for the first time. It's always a little bit awkward in that first meeting between cosplayers because, like, what do you say? Like, you know, oh, I think your costume is great. What now? You know?
Do you know what I normally do at that point? After I've said to somebody, actually I'll use an example. So when I was cosplaying as Elle, I met up with a friend of mine who was doing a gender bent Negan with Lucille, and she was talking to one of her friends who was cosplaying as Arya Stark.
Oh.
So I wanted a picture of the 2 of them so badly, and I knew my friend wouldn't have an issue with it, and she knows who she is because I know she'll be watching this. So I went up to her and I was like, okay, do you mind if I get a picture of the 2 of you together? And she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I took a picture of her and I ended up talking to the girl playing Arya, and I said, I love your costume. It took me a moment to get that you were Arya Stark. You know, because it's when she's wearing that outfit that she's travelling, when she's travelling with the Hound. So it's that kind of weird patch-looking outfit.
Yeah, like that kind of crisscross tunic kind of deal.
Yeah, so it took me a while to kind of, like, twig, oh, that's Arya Stark. But when I went up to her and I was like, I love your costume, she complimented me on mine, and I said, you're not on Instagram by chance, are you? So I brought Instagram into the conversation, and that works really, really well because you can then start flicking through past cosplays, because I think somebody mentioned to me that she really liked Harley Quinn cosplays, so I was like, oh, do you want to see some of mine? You know? So it's always good to bring up past cosplays that you've done to other cosplayers because it might spark their interest.
Okay.
But I do understand that because I think that's something that a lot of cosplayers are like. They're like, what do we say now other than I like your costume?
Yeah, that's me. Just a little awkward turtle just kind of swimming around.
Oh. Um, so when you've been at the conventions, have you ever taken part in the cosplay competitions?
I've taken part in some smaller ones, like at the conventions that are kind of local to me. We have SuperCon. Yeah, we have SuperCon because I haven't done it at Animate or at Paradise City Comic Con. But I remember last year in April, they did this smaller event called SuperCon Retro, where they went to the old convention center that they used to hold it at before it got huge.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like a smaller convention for like just a weekend. And I remember that's where I debuted my Gambit, actually. And just for the heck of it, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to compete in one of the competitions over the weekend. And I did, and it wasn't the main costume competition because I didn't feel like I had made enough of the costume to warrant competing in a higher level competition like that. The one that I competed in was the heroes and villains. Oh, no. The Superboys and Supergirls of SuperCon, they called it. And basically, it was a competition for like based off of like superheroes and villains.
Mm-hmm.
So like they had categories like best group, best in show, judges pick, and then they had best bad boy and best bad girl and best good boy and best good girl, you know. Best male hero, best female hero, best male villain, best female villain. And I remember going up as Gambit, and they tell you, get on stage, strike 3 poses, and then get off, you know?
I can see where
And, you know, I go up on stage, I'm a little bit drunk, I'm not gonna lie, and I strike my poses, I just throw one last one at the judges, kind of a little wink sort of deal, and I get off the stage, and then they're announcing the winners, and I placed as best bad boy.
Awesome.
And then over the summer in July, I tried again at the bigger convention, SuperCon.
Mm-hmm.
Same competition, but like I was up against a guy who was in like a cyborg cosplay, like DC Comics cyborg, and it was, you know. And this time I went as New 52 Red Hood, you know. But the thing is that apparently in the bigger convention, this competition is more about it's more about sex appeal than it is about the actual craftsmanship of the cosplay. So I basically went up there, kind of sauntered up, just took off my helmet, pushed back my hair, and just smolder, you know. You know, and then I placed again as best bad boy. I've got the trophies somewhere.
Awesome.
But next weekend, actually, I'm going to enter in the main competition as the Dexter Soy Red Ronin variant, because that one, I'm fairly certain I've built enough of that one that I can say I'm confident enough to enter.
I'm going to have to ask you right now and then, because you mentioned smoldering. Yeah. I have a friend of mine who does fin smolders from the Tangled movie line. And I'll admit he has the best smolder ever. You know, I remember I was at a convention recently where I met my boss from iGame Online in person for the first time, and I ran into him and his girlfriend who was doing Rapunzel, and the first thing I said to him was, "Oh, can you do the smolder for me?" And he's like, and I kid you not, it made my day. I was like, right, I don't care what happens today. The world can end. I've had a smolder. I'm good. So, my question to you now is, can you do the fin smolders? Smolder.
I can certainly try, I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I can do it, but I can definitely try. It's something like,
There you go.
there's a lot of pout going on in that one.
There you go.
Yeah.
We've got the... there's another cosplay for you if you haven't already done it. I think it is one of the cosplays that you've essentially done at one point or another. I can't fully remember without looking at Instagram on my phone right now.
I've never done Flynn Rider, no. But I considered it briefly because well, no. Yes, but no. It's very interesting because I'm fairly certain I don't look very good in a doublet, so.
Okay. Okay, so moving along. Yeah, we've answered that question. In your opinion, what are the best and worst things that a new cosplayer can do when they're getting ready to go to a cosplay event?
Best and worst things.
Yeah. So let's say the 3 best things that they can do before going to an event and the 3 worst things that they can do, in your opinion.
Okay. In my experience, some of the best things that you could do, always take a bag with you. It doesn't matter if your cosplay, if a bag doesn't go with it. It doesn't matter if it would break the look of the character. You can always put down a bag to take pictures, but what you can't do is conjure up things that you might need out of thin air just because you didn't want to take a bag.
Unless you're cosplaying as Harry Potter or Zatanna.
True.
But even then, I think they would have a little bit of difficulty. So,
Yeah.
bags are magical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah. And another thing. Always read the prop guidelines for whatever event you're going to, because you don't want to just show up at an event and then be told by security at the door that you can't go inside because your props aren't allowed. You know?
That is something that I'm just going to very quickly reinforce with various things that have happened in 2017. Gosh, I'm having to get used to saying that. A lot of the security rules and regulations have been tightened more so at Comic-Con events, so always do check out those guidelines, guys, because it would be an extreme shame if you had to make a very large prop, like say a Buster Sword, and you're not allowed to take it in because it looks too real, you know. So just be very careful on those fronts and make sure you're within the guidelines of the location you're going to. Obviously, these rules do change from location to location, so just make sure you're up to speed on that. So sorry, Nightwing, what else would you say is another good thing to do? One last good thing to do.
One last good thing to do. Alright, this one I found out rather recently was very helpful, is even before you get into cosplay, before you even pack your bag to go to this event, make a list of every single piece that goes with your cosplay or with your cosplays if you're doing multiple. Just write down the name of the character and every piece that you own that goes with that cosplay, so that you can always make sure your stuff is always together and you're not missing anything. Because I actually did lose a pair of gloves in July when I was coming back from a convention. I don't know what happened. Maybe I forgot to pack them or I misplaced them, but I lost a pair of gloves and I had to buy a new pair to replace them. And gloves aren't cheap.
They're really not. Especially if it's a specific type of gloves as well. Always be thinking ahead in that regard, guys. Checklists are something that cosplayers are bringing more and more in to what they're doing nowadays, so that they can make sure they have every single piece of costume, every single piece of prop, and every single piece of their emergency repair kit if required. Because that's another thing that cosplayers seem to be walking around with in abundance. Also, it's an idea to list your makeup as well, if that's what your cosplay requires. Just so that you know when you get back home, hey, I've got that piece of makeup, because again, that's not cheap. So what would you say is some of the worst things that a new cosplayer can do when getting ready to go to the event?
Worst things. Okay. Big one. Okay. Never, and I mean never, ever, ever, ever go to an event with unsealed body paint.
Good idea.
Ever.
Good idea.
Because not only will that stuff get all over your clothes, but if you happen to get close to other people, which you inevitably will in like lines or in crowds, it'll rub off on other people's things. And that's the last kind of encounter you want to have.
Exactly. There's been multiple people who have said to me, when using body paint, seal it away. I have a friend over in America and another friend over in America. I have multiple friends over in America, I should just say, who did one of the James Cameron avatars. And he mentioned to me about how long it takes to do that whole process. And the first time he did it, there was no airbrushes, so that he couldn't airbrush his body.
Yeah, so he had to do it by hand.
And obviously that took considerably longer, but they didn't realise that they had to seal the type of body paint that he had. And when he immediately touched somebody, he noticed it rubbed off on his hand, so he just kind of went, oh, right, can't touch anyone, and I have to get out of here to find some form of sealant. So he was very lucky in that regard, I think. But if you want to find more on that interview, just look up Super Matt or Bodybuilder Matt and in this playlist, if you're watching this interview as part of a playlist, and you can hear more about how he went through that and how when he got an airbrush it was so much quicker to do an avatar character. Also check out the images on that as well, guys, because he did amazingly well, and it's one of my favourite cosplays that he's done. But moving along, what would be something else that you would say is one of the worst things? Because we've got not sealing your body paint for one. What would be number 2 and 3?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's one of the worst things that you could do, but coming from somebody that it's happened to, it's not exactly a comfortable thing. Sometimes what'll happen is that you'll have another cosplayer or even just somebody in plain clothes, like an attendee at one of these events, and clearly they want to take a photo of you or they want to speak with you, but they can't bring themselves to come within a certain amount of space of you, and they just kind of walk a perimeter of you, and they're looking at you, but they don't approach you, and they just kind of circle you. Mm-hmm. I find that a little bit uncomfortable, You know,
Okay.
like, hey, come on over. Don't be shy. You know, I'm just a person.
I think that's something that a lot of cosplay fans in that regard, they just don't know how to approach the cosplayer. And we can
Yeah.
all
Like,
respect
I
that.
totally understand that.
Yeah,
Like,
we
coming
can
from somebody who also has a difficult time approaching other cosplayers, like, I totally understand that.
in
But, like, it gets to
just
a point where it gets uncomfortable on both ends, and, like, just don't let it get to that point, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, exactly. Like if you want a picture of a particular cosplayer, guys, go up to them. You know, as both myself and Nightwing have said, cosplayers love the attention. You know,
Yep.
if you go up to them and say, "Can I get a picture with you?" 9 times out of 10, they will say yes. You know, the only 1% of the time is if they're trying to take off a piece of the cosplay so that they can move for a second, or if they're eating. If they are doing those things, leave them alone. Because that's a very kind
That,
of moment.
yeah.
So
And
what would you
that
say?
is actually that's actually one of the other things that I was going to say is like that being said, you want to approach cosplayers, but pick the moment that you do
Exactly.
because sometimes, specifically when cosplayers are eating, like I consider that to be kind of taboo. Like, don't approach a cosplayer when they're in the middle of eating.
Unless eating is part of the costume. You know, because there are
That,
some costumes that are the exception. You know, there's, I
yeah,
think it's the fat princess from the Mario games or something, where she's always got a piece of cake
yeah,
or something like. So if it's a character that is supposed to be eating, then fair enough. You know, but if you
yeah.
do see the cosplayer at a restaurant, leave them alone. You know, just by all means do go up to them and say, hey, when you have a moment or when you've finished, do you mind if I get a picture? But if they're eating, let them be.
Yeah.
Don't go be snapping pictures. You're not the paparazzi, and these are not celebrities.
Oh my
If
gosh.
they do walk up to you and punch you in the face for doing such a thing, it's your own goddamn fault.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but like, it isn't very comfortable either.
No, it's definitely not. So, moving along, we're going to very quickly touch on age differences within cosplay. And I'm going to start that off by asking, because we vaguely spoke about the Flynn Rider and whatnot, kind of costume and stuff. Have you done any costumes that are specifically geared to a younger age group, or do you tend to stick within your own kind of age group?
I usually tend to stick with characters that'll resonate more with people of my own age group or maybe a little bit older. Or if you've got a really mature younger person, then yeah, maybe it might resonate with them. Like, I'm very much about like Byronic heroes, anti-heroes, those kind of things. Ones where they're not conventionally good or conventionally evil. Like, I deal a lot with characters who reference or are involved with the devil or demonic entities like Hellstorm or Lucifer, which a lot of younger people might not really tend to like, you know? And then I've also got Red Hood and John Constantine, who are not heroes in the traditional sense. So it's not characters that you expect to receive a lot of attention from a younger audience.
You mentioned that you were considering your Guardian's Jack Frost cosplay. If you were approached by, say, an organisation, like a charity organisation, because I know a lot of the UK cosplayers who do certain characters that are geared towards children get approached to do charity events, would that be something that you would be interested in doing, and therefore maybe embrace more of these kind of child-friendly characters?
That there is interesting, because, to be honest, I don't think I would say no to like a charity organization to, hey, do you want to dress up? Maybe put a smile on a kid's face. Like, it's, personally, I think it'd be really difficult to say no to that,
Would you
But
then
at the same
maybe bring in
time,
more characters that are kid-friendly to your repertoire at that kind of point then?
yeah, like maybe I would consider doing that too. But at the same time, I don't exactly want to cosplay characters that I don't have any sort of attachment to.
And that's fair.
And to be frank, I don't have an attachment to a lot of kid-friendly characters.
Again, understandable.
Like, my attachment to Jack Frost is because he's a really interesting and very well-developed character. He's complex, and the things that he does, like, despite his aesthetic being very childish, he's a very complex and very troubled character, and I like that.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to ask you to remember back to when you first started cosplaying, and maybe just a little bit before that. So, when I first started cosplaying, I got in my head that it was a specific age group that you were dealing with. Because when I started looking up different cosplays and Comic-Con conventions, all the images I was seeing wasn't of mum, dad, baby, child, aunt, uncle, granddad. It was just teenager and mid to early 30s. And I thought, okay, that must be the demographic for age groups that go to Comic-Cons. And I was so surprised to see so many different age groups of all ranges when I went to my first con. Did you have a similar notion in mind when you first started going to Comic-Cons and started cosplaying? Did you think, oh, it's this age group and only this age group?
Not really, to be honest, because when I went to my first convention, I was a freshman in high school, and I had a friend who just one day told me, like, hey, are you going to go to SuperCon? Because she knew that I was into superheroes and stuff, and I was like, SuperCon? What's SuperCon? Like, I didn't know that there was even a convention scene in Miami. So when I was told this, I was blown away. I'd never bothered looking into it. And basically, I just went. I just went to my first event, basically blind. And once I was there, I just saw everybody, all sorts of people, children, teenagers, adults, even a few elderly people, like, in cosplay, and I was amazed.
It's the elderly people that get me when you see them in cosplay. It shocks me. Like, I seen at one convention an elderly man doing the character from Up.
Oh.
And he was walking around with, like, a bunch of balloons. I think they were, like, sticked helium balloons, but, he's walking around with them. And because I live in the UK, there is not a convention that I can go to where there is not somebody doing one of the Doctor Who's.
Nah. Oh my God.
Which, if you ask me, is very smart on the part of the people who live in the UK, because they're using not only their age to their advantage when it comes to cosplay, but their location. Because everybody, it doesn't matter if you watch Doctor Who or not, everybody in the UK knows Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Country of origin, it's like taught to us in the education system, this is a Doctor Who,
Yeah. And actually, like, there has not been a single convention that I've been to where I haven't seen at least one Doctor. All right? Because even here in Miami, I have two friends who actively cosplay the Doctor.
Awesome.
One of them, well, both of them do the 10th, but one of them also does the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a couple of people who've tackled the 12th. Like, my personal favorite is Capaldi's Doctor, so I'm always a little bit more nitpicky with that one, but I want to see him get it right, you know? I'm always on him about his accent. It's funny.
So, while we're on the subject of using your age to your advantage, do you feel that that is something that can sometimes be beneficial, or can sometimes be a hindrance for certain cosplays?
Well, using your age when it comes to cosplays is definitely a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Because depending on how you present yourself, how you groom yourself, the way you do your hair, if you shave or not, you'll look either one age or another.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I tell you, when I have like a full beard and my hair is all messy and stuff, I look like I'm at least in my mid-20s. But when I comb my hair and when I shave, I look like a teenager. Like, I don't know if you've seen the side-by-side photo of myself with David Mazouz, but in that photo, I'm clean-shaven with my hair like nice and slicked back like Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And it's... the similarity is just...
I know.
awe-inspiring, first of all. But, like, at the same time, we look pretty much the same age, and he's 4 years younger than me.
Wow. Scary. I know that Dean mentioned that given his age, which we will not divulge, just out of respect, but he has mentioned that it's become slightly more difficult for him to do characters like Oswald Cobblepot or Star-Lord, and he's preferred to maybe move into playing Star-Lord's father, or he'll still do Oswald Cobblepot every now and then, but he just won't do it as frequently, and that's just out of what he feels is respect to his age, because it's difficult for somebody who's in, say, their 40s and 50s to play somebody in their 20s and 30s. It just, there's obvious lining on the face at that point that says no.
I definitely understand that, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that as well. And it can be difficult, but it's not a definite no, guys. Just so that you know, there are possibilities within makeup, things that you can do with prosthetics to make yourself look younger if you're older, and if you're younger, obviously, can make yourself look older. So, moving away from age groups, let's talk about the one thing that is the bane of every cosplayer in the entire world: props.
Props. Oh boy.
So, for me, props fall into two categories. One, they go with me to a Comic-Con, and two, they go with me to a photo shoot. Then they fall into three subcategories. One, ow, this prop is so large it will break my back. Large, medium size, this prop is not so bad, it's medium size, but if I have to carry it around for maybe 7 to 8, maybe 9, 10 hours, it's going to annoy me. And three even, can't count. It is so nice and small it fits in my pocket or in my bag and I'm good to go. Which out of the three sizes do you tend to work with more when it comes to going to an event?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really stick to one or even two sizes. Like, I have several props that I could just kind of slip into my pocket or into a holster or something. Like, that's the thing, is that most of my props are weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a very a lot of my cosplays are like warrior type soldiers, that kind of deal.
Hmm.
Um, I will tell you though, I never really have a prop that's just so big and so bulky that I don't want to carry it around. Like the biggest prop that I have is a trident, and it's big, but it's still light enough that I can carry it all day if I have to, you know?
Okay.
Like I've never tried like a Buster sword or like a Gatling gun cannon thing. Like I've never done that kind of thing. You know, I always found that to be kind of annoying to deal with, you know, so
Um,
but like what you were saying about having props that go to conventions and props that instead go to photo shoots, like that, absolutely. Because a lot of the stuff that you might want to use in a photo shoot isn't necessarily con friendly. And at the same time, your con friendly props might not be good enough looking for a photo shoot, you know, and that's certainly the case with mine. Um, like my trident is good to go either way, but I definitely have one set of guns for when I do Red Hood in a photo shoot, and I have a completely other different set of guns for when I'm going to a convention.
mhm.
Like that's just like the one example I can think of off the top of my head. But
I would always recommend, when it comes to doing photo shoots, definitely take larger props because you have more time with them, and 9 times out of 10 you'll only be posing with it for like a couple of seconds and then it gets put down. Taking a larger prop to you with a con, you're constantly having to hold it, and you can be at a con for up to 7 hours, if not more. Think of that. You know, I mean, granted, if you have a large prop that you would like to take to a con and you made it yourself, remake it but on a smaller scale. You know, like shrink it from large to medium. Then it can go with you.
yeah,
But speaking of props, we're going to move it into a different section of the question. When it comes to props, do you A, make your own from scratch, B, buy them in ready-made, or C, buy them in half ready-made and then customize them to what you need? Or do you do it all three?
honestly, I've done all three. Like I have bought props before, which like they're pretty great props. Like for example, for my Assassin's Creed Syndicate cosplay, I like the cane sword. I just got that one off of eBay. I'm pretty sure I did. And that one, it's a perfect prop. It doesn't really need to be modified or anything. But the Hidden Blade, for example, I wound up commissioning a Hidden Blade that actually works from a guy that I met. Well, I didn't meet him per se. I stumbled across his Facebook page, and he makes like 3D printed Hidden Blades. So I commissioned one from him, and it's pretty much the star of my Assassin's Creed cosplay. Now the Gauntlet, for example, I did buy that one, but I wasn't quite satisfied with it. So what I did is that I kind of gutted it and I modified it so that it worked better with the cosplay that I had, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then there are props that I have made from scratch, like my trident I made. Right now I'm working on Riptide from Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Unfortunately, we can't see your trident. We're kind of off camera from your trident.
Yeah, I mean, I can go grab it if you'd like.
Sure.
It's right
Sure,
there.
sure.
Yeah. Here.
Ooh, very nice.
It's just about as tall as I am, and I've spray painted it with like a gold metallic paint. Originally, this trident is supposed to be for Damon Hellstrom, who is a Marvel Comics character, the son of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But I've been considering maybe doing some form of Aquaman. Like, It's a tentative plan, but it's probably not going to go anywhere. Like I have
I might be able
personally a
to.
thing about not cosplaying characters whose body type I can't really imitate. Like that's just a thing with me personally. Like
I
I'm
might
all
be able
about body
to.
positivity.
I might be able to help you out with that one. I'll fill you in on a character that you could do that is Aquaman related, that has a similar body type to you, and I know that for a fact. But on the subject of making props, I'm going to show you guys the star of my latest well, not latest cosplay, but the one before it. The one that drove me completely insane. My lovely little Jack in the Box.
Wow. Huh.
All handmade,
Really?
and even here, I think is it up the right way? Yep, it is.
That's pretty impressive.
And it's all like in even the doors at the back where if I want to I can take the head off and put them in. All handmade and extremely con friendly because it's all made from, well, the box is made from cardboard, polystyrene, a little bit of red felt, obviously wool, a button, and then the pins to hold in the button, and then the pins to hold Jack to the top of the box. But all extremely friendly. I have used this in one con so far, and I've never had an issue with it. I did ask the security about the pins that are in Jack's eye, and they said as long as they don't come out of his eye, they're fine. Also with the pins on the inside of Jack, they said, well, so long as that's all they're doing is holding the head in place, you shouldn't have a problem. Because believe it or not, polystyrene holds pins of any length at an extreme kind of tight grip. You know, so unless you're yanking them out really, really hard, these pins are not going anywhere. So, but this little boy drove me completely insane to the point where I started talking to it like it was going to answer me back. So I'm going to say right here and now, if you have a prop that you're screaming at, swearing at, and asking it over and over and over and over, why aren't you working? You need to put that prop down and walk away from it before people get you committed. So yes, props can be fun, but they can also be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
As this
Always remember, kids, you can talk to your props, but when they start to talk back, you gotta put it down.
Exactly. Okay, so my second to last question for you is, what has cosplay opened up for you away from being a cosplayer? Well, sorry, my third to last question, I should say. So has there been any opportunities that have opened up for you?
Well, to be honest, outside of being a cosplayer, I'm pretty much stuck in Miami. Like I don't travel very often, and since I've really seriously started cosplaying, I've already been to more places in a year than I have been in the last 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, and I hope to go to more places too. Like so far, I've only just been to Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and Atlanta, but I hope to go to Nashville, back to Atlanta, maybe New Orleans sometime, or somewhere around Dallas and Texas. Like as a thing, I love to travel, but I don't nearly get to do it as often as I'd like to. And I think cosplay is opening up that avenue for me where I have a reason to travel instead of just pleasure.
Okay. So my next question for you is who you're going to be in your next 3 cosplays. So we'll break this down. Who you're going to be at your next event, somebody that you're currently working on for the event after your next one, and somebody that we might see, maybe, as in you're just kind of thinking about it, it could happen, it might not, towards the end of 2018. So, who are you going to be at your next event?
Alright, so at my very next event, I'm going to be the Dexter Soy Red Hood variant, the Ninja Red Hood, the Red Ronin, which I actually have the mask here for. It's like a kind of helmet mask hybrid. I only just finished putting in the lenses yesterday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we can see more pictures of this on your Instagram.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And
there was one of that up recently that I noticed, and I was like, ooh, nice.
Yeah. And I'm actually almost done with it. I'm entering into con crunch territory, actually, because I still have to finish the knee pads and I have to repaint the swords, but it'll get done.
Mm-hmm. So we've got Red Hood Ronin for your next event. Who is somebody that you're working on for maybe the middle of the year, or kind of already started working on for the next event after that?
Well, one thing for sure that I'm working on that I intend to have finished before May is I want to have my Winter Soldier arm done before the premiere of Infinity War so that I can wear it to the premiere.
Awesome. And lastly for that, who are you thinking of for the end of, well, near to the end of 2018?
Now, for that one, it would be kind of hard to tell, but I'm either going to have army dress uniform Bucky Barnes, like, you know, Sebastian Stan in that really nice army dress uniform from the beginning of the first Avenger. I'm either going to try to do that or Batman in his rebirth suit from the recent comics.
Nice. Awesome. So we hope to see more of those, and obviously we'll be keeping up with your progress on your various social medias on how you're doing with these cosplays. My last question, however, would be, what advice would you give anyone who is, what advice would you give to a new cosplayer who doesn't know quite where to start when it comes to cosplay?
Well, if you're just starting out in cosplay, the first thing you got to do is pick a character that you love, alright? Because if you're not cosplaying a character that you love and that you identify with, then it's not really worth it because your heart's not in it, you know? And then after that, you pick something that you can do depending on where your skill level is at. Like, I know when I was starting, I had absolutely no idea what the heck foam was or what kind of paints to use with what, so I started closet cosplaying, and that's basically what you gotta do. You gotta find cosplays that you can do with regular clothes and then start working your way into doing small props or like small adjustments to those clothes, maybe small bits of armor. And the best thing that I can offer in terms of learning how to work with those other details is YouTube videos. Literally, I learned most of what I know about working with foam and about paints, and actually even a small bit about electronics by looking up YouTube videos and just watching what people do and trying to format it into what I'm trying to do myself.
Awesome. And just to add to that, I've noticed a slight increase on the amount of YouTube videos that have cosplay orientated stuff ever since I started doing these interviews, and it's so fantastic to see so many different cosplayers doing so many different things. One person I can definitely recommend if you're looking for like armor builds in general would be Cosplay Chris, who's over in Australia. He is fantastic. Also, if you want the female perspective, you can tune into his girlfriend, who I think is Jennifer. I'm sorry
Laura.
if I'm getting that wrong. She does a lot of cosplays alongside him, and then currently she does a lot of Harley Quinn when he's doing Red Hood for some reason. I don't know. Maybe Red Hood doesn't have a girlfriend, or maybe Harley Quinn's a better suited girlfriend for Red Hood. Who knows? But there are multiple different cosplayers out there, guys, that have so much to offer. Go along and just type in for different tutorials and you will guarantee to find them. In fact, you'll probably find 20,000 odd different variations. But if you, for some reason, want to see more interviews with cosplayers, do click on to the playlist. There are a multitude of different cosplayers there. Some of them you might recognise, some of them you might not. Go and see what offers they have on what advice they can give. Also, don't forget to rummage around on my channel and see if there's any other things that you might be into. I do have currently a few gaming videos going up every now and then. Some of the Telltale games. We will be hopefully starting the Telltale Batman stuff this year. We currently are trying to finish off both the Telltale Game of Thrones game and the Injustice 2 story mode. So please be patient, they will be coming as soon as we can possibly get them out to you. Also, do go over to my Twitch where I do these streams live. And you can talk to me on Twitch, surprisingly, and I will answer. Also, if you have any questions both for myself or for Knightwing Cosplays, put them in the comment section. I think it's like, do you see it down there? It's like, there's a comment section down there. Do you see it? It's like,
yep,
really down there. And give these videos a thumb up because we love our thumbs. Equally though, guys, if you want to find more of me, you can find me on this lovely website, igameonline.net, where we do have a Facebook page as well as a YouTube page, and there are multiple other shows happening over there. We have Dragonlance, which just came to you last night on a Sunday for the very first time ever. We have our tabletop sessions in MERP and in various other tabletop personalities. Go along and find out what's happening there. You can also catch up with myself, Whisper Green Top, Zelly, Darkly, Honey Jade, and a whole host of other people. However, if cosplay is more your thing, we do have a section of people who are cosplay related on our website, and those are all the people at Any UK, which includes the wonderful Covey Kicks, Little Rascal, and Alphabetic Cosplays. Go and see what amazing cosplays those guys are doing and where they're going and what they're up to. Guys, you will not regret it. However, if you want to see more of what Knightwing is up to, he is hopefully going to give us a lovely place that we can contact him if we don't feel confident enough putting a comment down in the section below. Obviously, if you do, we will try, either myself or Knightwing Cosplay will try and get back to you as soon as possible, but we are extremely busy, guys. We will do our best, we are sorry. But if we do have any further questions that we'd like to ask you, Knightwing, where can we get a hold of you on social media?
Okay, well, my main social media interface is Instagram, and you can follow me at Knightwings. That's KNIGHTWINGS. And I also have a Facebook page that's Knightwings Cosplay. It's the same spelling of Knightwings, but with cosplay. Yeah. Awesome. It'll have my photo, so you'll be able to recognize me. And that's basically it. Yeah, I have a Twitter, but I hardly ever use it. Yeah.
Well, like we say, guys, do go along and support Knightwing on all of these social platforms. If you're able to find him on Twitter, then awesome. If not, it's okay. But if you missed any of them, don't worry about it, guys. There will be links in the description of this video where you can click on it and go follow him. please do go support Nightwing as much as you possibly can, guys. In the meantime, I've been Jai452. Nightwing Cosplay has been Nightwing Cosplay, and this has been Inside Cosplay. Hopefully we'll be back with another interview real soon. Bye, guys.